All right, so now you have your functions that you're trying to create, and we can make these functions quite complex. So one of the things you might want to do is do different operations based on what the value is. Okay, so that's when control statements come in handy. The most popular one is you're basically using if-else statements. So if a condition is true, then you do a set of commands. Else, that means if the condition is false, then you do a separate set of commands. So another nice property about this is that you could have an if-else statement inside of an if-else statement. So you could have something complex like if this is true, then if this is true, and so on. You can also have Boolean logic, because ultimately what it's doing is it's going to look at that term and determine if it's true or not, and then continue to follow to do the analysis. Okay? And it usually evaluates a vector of length 1. That means it's only going to check if that first element is true. If you try to give it a whole bunch of trues and false, it's not going to care. It's just going to look at the first one. Okay? So generally, it's looking if that condition is true or false, and then it will continue. So here's a very simple, again, example. Let's say we initialize a variable a with the value of 20, and we have this really simple if statement that says if the value of a is greater than 5, so here my condition is being defined inside these parentheses, right? So this is where my condition is being defined. And now, again, we're here with these curly brackets that define the start and end of what to do if this condition is true. Okay, so if a is greater than 5, then simply print a. Okay, else, that means if the condition is not true, print a is less than 5. Okay, and then else also has its own set of curly brackets that will allow you to put several lines of command between them. So in this case, your result obviously would be 20. It was basically, it's greater than 5, so it'll just print the value. Now, if you reset the value to 2, you would run this if statement again, and surely you would get a is actually less than 5. Now you can see how this can be kind of tedious. Every time you have a new value for a, you have to run this if-else statement again. So why don't we put this if-else statement inside of a function? Okay, so in this function, let's also make it a little bit more complex by creating nested if-else statement. So in this case, I'm going to do what I told you not to do. I'm going to create a function that's called the letter f. And then in its argument, I'm looking for a. Okay, so if in this function, everything between these blocks is going to operate. Okay, so this is going to get matched with this. Okay, usually in the RStudio when we do the lab, you'll notice when you put the cursor next to the curly bracket, the matching one usually gets highlighted, so you can see where it's getting paired. Okay, and often when you get an error, just check your curly brackets. Maybe they're not matching properly. So this is between the function, and now in this function, it's going to do all of this stuff. Again, I have my if statement, and then within the curly bracket, it's going to print if this is less than 5, else. Then I have another if statement. Inside of this else statement, you can also have else if statements, which make it a little bit easier. But here I just wanted to show you how you can actually have it nested inside. So this entire thing will be done if that condition is false, and then you have an if-else statement in here. So now to run this code, instead of copy and pasting it for every different value of a, you can simply type in the function f and then the values to provide in. So if you put function of 2, it will give you the value back a is less than 5. 7 would give you the term in the middle, and 20 would give you that it is greater. Okay. So notice in this function, I don't have a return statement because I'm not giving anything back. I'm just printing something back. Okay. So if I were to save the results into a variable, nothing would be saved because there's nothing being returned. Okay. Now, This is, there's also a special if-else statement called if-else. It's a command that tries to operate on the entire vector at a time. So this is something that I haven't actually used enough, but I feel like I should introduce this to you. So this, in this case, what it's going to do is, instead of looking at just that one term, as I mentioned, it will check if all the values in a vector fit a condition. Okay, so this argument is actually the condition. The second would be what to do if it's true, and the third would be what to do if it's false. So it looks something like this. If you have a vector from 1 through 8, and then you could use this if-else statement, and here is just asking you if a is less than or equal to 5, right? So this is your condition. So in this case, a is not just one number, it's an entire vector of numbers. So for every value that it's true, it's just going to print it out. For every value that it's not true, it's going to print this out. So it would look something like this. So it's a shortcut to perform this test on a set of values in one go. Okay? Again, I haven't used it too much, but in case you need to use it, this is always available.